Okay, ladies and gentlemen, seventh graders, let's look at chapter 16 today. We're talking about slavery dividing a nation. Yes, we are moving on to chapter 16, and we're going to be looking at a 40-year period from about 1820 to 1861, which is the year that the Civil War will start, in which the North and the South are really going to um, be characterized by growing opposition to slavery in the North and a large defense of slavery in the South by whites, even non-slave owning whites in the South, who look at slavery, whether slaves were owned by individual whites or not. A white population in the South that almost universally believes that slavery is the inherent right of white Southerners. So you're going to see in this 40-year period a real division in the country. And chapter 16, section 1 is, because of that, going to be titled Slavery in the Territory, in the Territories. Now, when we talk about territories, we're talking about lands in North America that were not yet states, American states, but had been inhabited by Western settlers and by people from the North and the South who have moved west across the continent. So, chapter 16, section 1 is going to address slavery in the territories. And this lesson will also be, this lecture will also be saved on your Schoology feed, along with the vocab terms. The first two vocab terms that we're going to look at for this section that are included in the reading here are popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty. It's a tough word to spell, but if you practice your vocab on Quizlet, you'll learn how to spell it, I think, kind of quickly. Popular sovereignty means control by the people. Okay. And also, we're going to look at a political party that will emerge in the period that we're talking here about, the Free Soil Party, a political party, a new political party that was formed by anti-slavery members of both political parties. So it's going to be a new political party that's established by anti-slavery supporters from both of the major political parties at that time. Let's take a look at the reading here, and we'll comment as we go through as we need to. In the early to mid 1800s, fierce debates about slavery arose in the United States. Missouri asked to join the Union as a slave state. Again, Missouri asked to join the Union as a slave state. If Missouri were to be accepted as a slave state, there would be more slave states than free states. Missouri would have been, at that point, the 16th slave state to 15 free states. And in 1820, Senator Henry Clay helped Congress work out the Missouri Compromise. And with this compromise, and we'll have a couple of videos on the Schoology page that you guys can view on this topic as well. With the Missouri Compromise, Missouri is going to join as a slave state, and the state of Maine will join as a free state. Let's just take a look at a quick map of the Missouri Compromise that you guys can look at here. This is kind of a neat little map that'll explain exactly what the Missouri Compromise is. With the Missouri Compromise, this area down here in the dark red colors, you have slave states and territories in 1820. The area to the north here in the light blue are going to be free states and territories. And what the Missouri Compromise is basically going to do, real important here, an imaginary line is going to be drawn from 36 degrees, 30 minutes. Okay? 36 degrees, 30 minutes. An imaginary line is going to be drawn across the continent up to the end of the Louisiana Purchase territory. And with the Missouri Compromise, all of the territory south of that 36 degrees latitude line, all the lands, all the territories south of that are going to be, under the Missouri Compromise, are going to be areas in which slavery will be allowed. And all of the territory above this line in the Louisiana Purchase territory will be areas in which slavery will not be allowed. The only exception to that, and this is why Missouri is red, even though Missouri appears above the Missouri Compromise line, Missouri is entering as a slave state. Everything else above 36 degrees, 30 minutes, again, highlighting the line here, everything above this line here, 36 degrees, 30 minutes in the Louisiana Purchase, is going to be free territory. Everything below it will be slave territory, with Missouri the exception. Now, as part of this compromise, because Missouri will enter as a slave state, the element of compromise here, remember, a compromise, we said, is where each side, to arrive at a settlement, each side has to give something up. Each side has to be willing to give something up to obtain something. The compromise here is that Missouri will be added as a slave state, and up here in the far northeastern corner of the United States, Maine will be added as a free state. So thereby, with Maine and Missouri being added as a free and a slave state, you're going to keep that balance of states between free and slave at the same number. With the addition of Maine, Maine will be the 16th free state. And with the addition of Missouri as a slave state, you will have now 16 slave states. So there's that balance that's maintained. Okay. Now back to our reading. Let's take a look at the next paragraph. Then in the 1840s, the issue of slavery will arise again. One problem was whether to allow slavery in the lands won from Mexico. Supporters of slavery, mostly Southerners, wanted to allow it in every new territory and state of the West. And one of the reasons they want this, Southerners, as they're moving west across the continent, are wanting to bring slaves into these new American territories. So it makes sense if you're a Southern slaveholder and you're obtaining new land west in the territories, you're going to want to bring your slaves to work there. So this issue is going to be very, very important. Opponents of slavery, mostly Northerners, want to make slavery illegal in the territories. They want to stop the spread of slavery from going into new American territories. Abolitionists are hoping to end slavery. The first way to achieve that is, before they can end slavery in the northern state, or excuse me, before they can end slavery in the southern states, they want to stop the spread of slavery into new territories as well. So opponents of slavery, mostly Northerners, want to make slavery illegal in the West. Again, Northerners were afraid of losing power to Southerners. And in 1846, the House of Representatives passed the Wilmot Proviso. The Wilmot Proviso. Let's see if we can highlight that here. Yeah, the Wilmot Proviso right here is going to be very, very important because it bans slavery in the Western territories. The Senate, however, defeats the Wilmot Proviso, and a solution to slavery was not reached. So remember when we talked about how a bill becomes a law, House of Representatives passes the Wilmot Proviso, but the Senate defeats it, so therefore it does not become law, and a solution to slavery is not reached. Some members of Congress support the idea of popular sovereignty, this term right here, popular sovereignty. And this means that voters in a new territory would decide for themselves whether to allow slavery or not. Now, this is going to be, as we already talked about John Brown, this idea of popular sovereignty is going to be very, very controversial and very important, because what's going to happen if voters in a territory can decide for themselves whether slavery is going to be allowed or not, you're basically going to have groups of people moving into these Western territories, Kansas, for one, with John Brown and other anti-slavery supporters, as well as the border ruffians. You're going to have groups moving into territories, and they are going to basically apply this idea of popular sovereignty in every territory to determine whether slavery is going to be allowed or not. And it's going to cause a lot of controversy and a lot of infighting and a lot of violence in some places over this issue of whether slavery is going to be allowed or not. Let's take a peek at the last paragraph, and we're looking at the debate over slavery would lead to a new political party, the Free Soil Party. Okay, the Free Soil Party. And the Free Soil Party's main goal is to keep slavery out of the Western territories. Free Soil Party is not looking to abolish slavery, although there are a lot of abolitionists within the party. The Free Soil Party is only looking to stop the extension of slavery into Western territories. And the Free Soil Party ran Martin Van Buren, a former president, as a candidate for president in 1848. Van Buren lost, but he did show in 1848 that the issue of slavery had become a national issue. Now, to recap on the Missouri Compromise of 1820, taking a look at the chart on the Missouri Compromise, just to kind of recap the important points. Missouri joins the Union as a slave state. Maine will join as a free state, thereby, again, keeping that balance between the same number of slave states and the same number of free states. Before the Missouri Compromise, there were 15 slave and 15 free. With the Missouri Compromise, there will now be 16 slave states and 16 free states. Congress will draw an imaginary line across the southern border of Missouri, and except for Missouri, all territories above the line are to be free of slavery, and slavery is going to be permitted south of the line. Going back quickly to the chart that we looked at, the map rather that we looked at, that Missouri Compromise line is going to basically say that territories above 3630 are going to be free from slaves in the Western territories. In those areas south of 36 degrees, 30 minutes latitude, are going to be territories and states that allow slavery. The exception, again, being Missouri. Missouri technically is above 3630, but Missouri wanted to join as a slave state. All right, so what I'd like you guys to do to complete this lesson is to make sure that you are answering the two questions that appear at the bottom of the worksheet, and you can answer these in Google Docs. What was the main goal of the Free Soil Party? And using the chart, again, answering these questions as a Google Doc and numbering your responses, please. Using the chart, name two parts of the Missouri Compromise of 1820. Quick reminder, your vocab, all four vocab terms for this section will be linked on your Schoology page, and also make sure that you're studying those vocab terms so you're comfortable for your vocab quiz, which will be coming up shortly.